So, overdrive. Have people heard this word before? A little bit, not so much. So it is about, this talk is about titrating overdrive. So titrating your stress, your striving, your trying. In these times, many of us live in what Buddha might have called avijja, which is ignorance or delusion about the true nature of our capacity. I think many of us have overestimated our capacity around work or community stuff. We push ourselves into overdrive, believing more activity equals more meaning and more worth. And the Buddha recognized this tendency in himself 2,600 years ago. He taught about the middle path. So the middle path is like very non-binary because it's like not one way or the other, it's just the middle. And as queers, we sometimes like this like more binary, it's more exciting, more dramatic, like more adrenaline. But the middle path is a little bit more boring, but it's also more peaceful. So as I get older, I appreciate the middle path more. It's kind of in between self-indulgence and extreme striving. And this middle path gives rise to ease in the body, vision, and knowing. But then there's capitalism, and capitalism doesn't want us to take the middle path. It wants us to keep trying, and that productivity, that self-worth, that over-efforting. And like when you wake up in the morning, I don't know about you, but when you wake up in the morning, sometimes like your brain starts immediately, like with the lists and everything you've got to do. And you're not even conscious that you're starting to start the overdrive in your body. Like you're worrying, you're planning. And I was thinking like what can get us out of that? And I think it's mindfulness. So like just when it starts in the morning, just being like, oh, I'm doing that thing, but not in a mean way, like in a kind way to yourself. Because it doesn't work if you're like, stop doing that thing. It just doesn't work. So just, talking to yourself with kindness, because capitalism has it when we get out of bed, we just start. So, we've got a choice there. And I think the overdrive is also related to craving. Like we want to do more, we want more, like there's this craving tendency to the overdrive, this kind of pull forward. And internally, when we're being pulled forward, there's like a kind of a restlessness and this activity. I don't know if you all can feel it in your body or if it's just some of us. But there is a suffering in this. And there is an end to suffering. So that would be like taking back that present moment, like taking back that moment, but also our lives from this cycle of overdrive. And how can we tell when we're in overdrive? Like, can you feel it in your body when you're efforting? Like, is feel free to write in the chat if you can name how it feels. Um, Clenching. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the jaw. Sometimes for people it's in the head or the eyes, but people hold tension of the overdrive in different places. Sometimes it's in the entire body. There's a bracing. And then again, that restlessness, that kind of lots of movement. And it could just also, this body can be still, but the mind can be very, very busy. What's that thing like? A squirrel in a cage? hamster in a wheel, hamster, yeah. So when do we know we've gone over our capacity? These are the signs. We can feel them in our body, and maybe it's different for different people and it's changing. But that mindfulness of the sensation that we practice so much in meditation can help us. So there's the window of tolerance, like what we can handle. Have you heard of this before? The window of tolerance? Like we can handle this much. And then, you know, we get a flat tire on our bike and we just can't handle it. It's like too much, for example. There's a lot of bike riders here. So this window of tolerance is like this area of our lives where we can handle that much. Um, and it's kind of like this zone between like flight and fight and freeze. So it's not like we're frozen in we can't move, like we're incapacitated, or it's not like we have tons of energy to run away or fight, but it's kind of like in between those two. And that's like a healthy place to be, in between those two. We don't want to be in the binaries. We want to be in the non-binary, that kind of dance. This isn't non-binary propaganda, I swear. Anyways, it's fluid. It's a spectrum. um, and yeah. So when we've strayed from the middle path, it can feel those feelings inside, like if we're very aware of them, it can actually feel like harm. So it's like, do we really want to go through life like harming ourselves inside our own bodies due to capitalism, our jobs, our parents, whatever, society, the news? Like, do we want to be doing that self-harm? Like, I think any of us would say no, we don't want to do it. But then internally we go back to that place. We get away from that equanimity, that middle path. But when we bring it into consciousness, again, we have that choice. Like, do we want to keep feeling like this? Or do we want to feel something new? But of course, if we've been overdriving or efforting, trying, striving our whole lives, it's a lifelong habit. Like, when did it start? Like, how old were you when you felt that? Were you an adult? Were you a child? So the body's been holding these sensations for a really long time. And how does the body know it's safe to let go? Like, is it even possible to let go of this striving? And this bracing is a form of protection, probably about around the forces that be, being queer in this world too. So we can't actually drop all of this at once. We have to do it in like small increments or small bits. So we can meet our experience in small ways. So we know when we feel better inside. So if we don't feel good, like what can we change? And I found this Buddhist quote from Udana, and it is, just as the great ocean deepens gradually, slopes gradually, inclines gradually, not plunging by a steep precipice, so too should our practice deepen gradually. I'll read it one more time because I like this quote. It's new to me. Just as the great ocean deepens gradually, slopes gradually, inclines gradually, not plunging by a steep precipice, so too should our practice deepen gradually. And this is about, the meditation practice, but I think it can also be about, coming into consciousness around this efforting in the body. And this like kind of coming in and out of our body into these yucky sensations, into like more ease, like how can we support ourselves to release this in our bodies? This can create the conditions for future growth. this compassion towards ourselves can create conditions for future growth and maybe enlightenment. So the Buddha actually was very much into extremes. I don't know if you know, but he had many years of severe ascetic practice that brought him to the brink of death. Is anyone aware of this? Yeah. So he was like extreme self-denialist. That he didn't have food, clothes, shelter, like, and then he had this memory of meditative joy while sitting under a tree. And this memory of this sitting under the tree, he realized that, you know, he needed well-being, he needed nourishment, he needed rest. And what he said was, I recall that when my father was working, while I was sitting in the cool shade of a rose apple tree, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, I entered upon and abided in the first jhana. This is indeed the path to awakening. So it was like this sweet tree sitting thing that changed him away from that severeness, this like binary of extremes, to like, yeah, I can just sit under a tree. And this jhana state, do people know this word jhana? It's like a really deep concentration and a deep absorption. Like maybe you felt it in the forest or by the sea. Yeah, that really like deep connection. So in this research I did on this topic, I found out that rest is one of the 7 factors of enlightenment. So naps are wise. True rest isn't laziness, but a wise relationship with energy. I thought that was interesting. So it's actually wise to rest. And there's a student who came to the Buddha with a lute. This is a very common story. And the student's like, I can't figure out my practice. He's over practicing. And the Buddha was like, you're a musician, you play the lute. Like, you know, if you twist the strings too tight, if you tune it too tight, the string sounds bad, it can break. And if it's too loose, it doesn't make a good noise. So it's like you have to tune yourself, your body, your life to like the in-between, the non-binary string. But you know, that in-between place, the middle path, the middle path. And then when we rest, we integrate our experience, and just as the earth receives and transforms with the rain to flowers, like spring is happening right now, like we need this rest to transform ourselves. So when we have overdrive, we can pause and recognize when it's present. We can breathe, come to our anchors. We can name that it's here, or name the sensations that are here. And we can allow for self-care, a small moment, because days are long and full of lots of stuff. And knowing that rest is wise is very helpful. And knowing that this state of striving, some of us are striving a lot right now, some of us not so much, but whatever state we're in, it's impermanent. And our capacity is also impermanent. So may we all start to walk this middle path a little bit more as we age as queers, honoring both our capacity for effort and our need for rest, titrating our work and community life with wisdom and kindness, and finding more freedom and ease within our bodies and our lives.